Ukraine win Eurovision, taking the title on the public vote in a symbolic show of support. The UK came second.
Thank you for supporting Ukraine. This victory is for every Ukrainian. Slava Ukraini!
It was, of course, a huge night for Ukraine. This was the reaction from one viewing party in the capital.
Yeah, the group of friends who gathered to cheer on Kalush Orchestra gave us their verdicts on the big win.
We won here in Eurovision, and now this whole feelings, it's like yes, and we will win also in the war with Russia, and all Europe is with us, and it was feeling like we are all together.
In Ukraine we have war, it's not in time to have fun, but we need to have fun, we need to live, and we need to have understanding and feeling of life.
For many years we gather here to celebrate the Eurovision because it's like something that's like unites us of the whole Europe, and we feel like we are part of the Europe, and for us it's very important to be a part of this.
Thank you for every of your vote. You voted not for Ukraine, you voted for peace.
Well, let's speak to our correspondent Joe Inwood, who's in Lviv in the west of Ukraine. Joe, good morning to you. We'll come on to the situation in Ukraine in a second, but clearly a hugely symbolic night last night, that public vote propelling Ukraine to the top of that leaderboard. How has it gone down where you are?
Well, pretty much as you'd imagine. The sounds you could hear there, I think out of our hotel windows we heard similar things as the news was announced. This is a country that takes Eurovision very seriously. I know in the UK sometimes people are a bit snooty about it, think it's not something to be taken that seriously, but here it matters, and I think this year it matters more than anything. That chant of Slava Ukraina, the glory to Ukraine, that could be heard as well. It was a really, really important night. There was one little kind of sour note though, nothing to do with the competition, but as the victory was announced, the air raid sirens here in Lviv went off, and those carried on through for a kind of a few minutes or so. We don't think any missiles landed here, but there are reports that some were intercepted, and on social media some people were saying that as the rest of the world was celebrating with Ukraine, sending missiles was Russia's way of sending a message.
Yes, quite, and let's speak of that invasion and sort of current developments. In the east of the country, in Kharkiv, the mayor there saying that Russian troops are actually retreating from the city and that some Ukrainians are finally able to move back. What do we know about that so-called declared victory in Kharkiv as far as Ukraine is concerned?
Well, we started to get reports of this, the suggestion that it was happening yesterday morning. We've sort of had indications that the Russians were in retreat. And then yesterday, the mayor of Kharkiv confirmed that Ukraine's second city, the city they say is a fortress city, has basically earned that name. The Russians have been pushed all the way back, we think, well out of artillery range. And that's why we're seeing people start to return. This is a city that's been under constant bombardment for 70 days. People living in subways, pretty much no life on the streets. Well, now we think that is starting to change. It's going to take time. The city is seriously damaged, but some life is going to start returning to Kharkiv.
OK, Joe, for now, thanks so much. Our correspondent Joe Inwood there in Lviv.
Foreign ministers from NATO countries are resuming talks in Berlin this morning as Finland and Sweden move closer to joining the military alliance. Both countries have seen a surge in public support for membership since Russia invaded Ukraine.
Meanwhile, President Zelensky says the situation in Ukraine's Donbass region remains difficult. That's despite a large convoy of Mariupol residents being evacuated to nearby Zaporizhzhia last night. Francis Reid reports.
In the dead of night, a convoy of what's estimated to be up to 1,000 cars carrying refugees from Mariupol. It's arrived in Ukrainian-controlled Zaporizhzhia after waiting days for Russian troops to allow them to leave. Finally, some fresh supplies and food. Elsewhere, near Dnipro, more damage to homes by Russian bombs. But the Russian soldiers have left here now and retreated back towards the border. It's the same in Kharkiv, where the mayor says the battle for the city has been won. Ukrainian soldiers hope to replicate the success of Kharkiv elsewhere, testing out grenade launchers supplied by European allies. But the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, knows success is not yet secured.
Ситуація на Донбасі залишається дуже важкою. Російські війська досі намагаються показати хоча б якусь перемогу. На 80-й день повномасштабного вторгнення це виглядає особливо божевільно, але вони не припиняють всіх цих намагань.
In the Black Sea, NATO forces are training. While foreign ministers resume talks in Berlin, it's these elite troops who'd be relied upon if conflict spread outside of Ukraine. Finland and Sweden are moving yet closer to joining the NATO alliance, with Finns expected to request membership and Sweden potentially reversing previous opposition to joining. Overnight, the US Secretary of State arrived in Berlin to smooth out objections from member state Turkey. But the Kremlin warned NATO expansion would have repercussions. Russian propaganda video shows its troops on the offensive, but make no mistake, the loss of Kharkiv will be significant to Moscow. And NATO special forces will continue to train together, showing strength where any perceived weakness could lose diplomatic ground. Francis Reid, BBC News.